Hey everybody, Aaron Blaise here, and it's Thursday, so usually I would say, so that means must be YouTube, but we're going across all the different platforms today, aren't we, Dustin?
Everywhere.
Oh, so this is cool. Last week it was complete success, so we got
Twitch,
Twitter,
Facebook,
Facebook,
and
and
YouTube.
YouTube. And I think eventually we want to try to do Instagram too, we just haven't quite figured it out. Got my tea today. I wanted to get some caffeine in me because I'm falling asleep at my desk.
Don't want that to happen.
Holy moly, that was hot.
Oh yeah, pot
Fresh
tea.
brewed tea. So today I'm going to animate for you. Last week, not last week, but on Tuesday, if you saw what I was doing, I painted for you guys. We did the World Lion Day poster, and I've got the image of it right now. I'm going to show you this. Let me pull this away because I'm going to talk about this little bunny design in a minute. But here is our World Lion Day poster right here. There it is. That's our finished poster. And this is going to be available tomorrow, starting tomorrow, on our website, creatureartteacher.com. And we will be donating proceeds from the sale of this to lion conservation. So look for this. This is going to be available in 18 by 24 inch posters. So they're really big. And I'm really happy with this one. After we did the live stream on Tuesday, I went back in and did quite a bit more work on it. Just some finishing details. And so here it is. And like I said, I hope you guys enjoy it. And please purchase one and help us support lion conservation. So that's what we're going to do there. So today we're going to animate. I'm trying to get animation done for my for a new course that I'm creating for a Creature Art Teacher on acting for animation. And so I'm trying to come up with all kinds of different situations for acting. I'm also trying to think about different rules for acting. And in this case, this is one where I'm talking about phrasing. How to take different parts of dialogue and phrase it in the right way and keep your acting simple. This is another one. If you remember last week, I was doing the same thing. So I want to show you, actually, first of all, I've got Dustin here. As usual, he's going to be fielding questions. Say hi, Dustin.
Hi, everybody.
And then we've also got Nick Birch, my business partner. He's in Sarasota, and he's going to be fielding questions as well. And hopefully keeping the whole machine running.
Yeah, the bandwidth
really
keeps
hot.
dropping, but
Is it dropping out?
yeah, it's fluctuating. Like one moment it's green, next it goes red, and sometimes down to like 0.
Well, I'm
But
hoping that the bandwidth will hold up. We might have to turn that TV off upstairs, but that might help.
yeah, that's probably the current issue.
So, but anyway, on to what I've been doing. So, my girlfriend Vedanta, who also happens to be Nick's sister-in-law, his wife's sister. We're keeping it all in the family here. We're keeping it tight here. Vedanta, I had her record a line of dialogue from a book that I found. And it was a nice little line of dialogue, and so she went in, and this is the recording that she did. I brought it into Premiere, moved it, I cut it up a little bit, but here's the recording. And actually, let me pull this over here a little closer. Well, I guess I'll just turn it up. There we go.
So tear you apart.
Okay, let's try this again.
Memories warm you up from the inside, but they'll tear you apart.
One more time.
Memories, they warm you up from the inside, but they also tear you apart.
So I took that and I wanted it to sound younger, smaller, more fragile. So I brought it into TV. Well, I actually pitched it, brought it up, brought it into TV Paint, and here's the sound. I'm going to turn this off really quick because I don't want you to see that yet. But here it is with just the sound, with it pitched up.
We're having no upload right now whatsoever. In fact, the Facebook is showing live video interrupted.
Okay, I'm going to go upstairs and have. So go ahead and cut.
All right. We'll be right back, everybody.
So And we're back. So hopefully this will work a little better. We're having bandwidth problems, and I'm sorry we've had this in the past. We're working on it. Hopefully we didn't lose too many of you. But so let me pick up where I left off. So you heard, hopefully you heard well, let me back up just a little bit, just in case you didn't hear it. I'm going to go back to Premiere, and I'm going to play the sound that my girlfriend Vedanta recorded.
They warm you up from the inside, but they also tear you apart.
So I took that and I pitched it up and I brought it into TV Paint, which is the animation software that my 2D animation software that I use. And here's the sound of it pitched up.
Memories. They warm you up from the inside, but they also tear you apart.
So that's what I've been...
Memories. They warm you up from the inside, but they also tear you apart.
So that's what I've been listening to. That's the line of dialogue that's been inspiring me to animate this shot. So the first thing I did was I wanted a character to match that dialogue. So that's when I created this little bunny. I asked Vedanta's daughter, Heather, I brought her in and I said, what is this voice sound like? What kind of animal does it sound like? She says, it sounds like a bunny. So I designed a bunny. So this is the design that I created. And then from there, I went back to the dialogue and I wanted to thumbnail it. Thumbnailing is such an important part of the process. I'm always driving that idea. You should always thumbnail, whether you're doing an illustration, a painting, animation, whatever it might be. Thumbnailing is basically your planning stage. You're planning out what it is that you're going to do before you do it. And so what I do is I listen to this dialogue and I hear...
Memories.
There's one idea.
They warm you up from the inside.
2 ideas.
But
there's one.
they
Another
also
one.
Tear you apart.
4. So there's 4 different poses. Now, this is kind of a unique piece of dialogue because each piece of dialogue kind of dictates its own bit of action or pose. So it's memories. So there's a pose. They warm you up from the inside. There's another pose. But there's another pose, a slightly different pose. They also tear you apart. There's another pose. So what I did was I sat down and I started doing these little scribbles, these little drawings. And this is what I did right here. And so I took that little bunny and I wrote out the dialogue underneath and I posed out what I thought her acting might be. So it's memories. And she's picked a flower. She's picking this flower and she's looking at it and she's saying memories. And she pulls the flower in tight. They warm you up from the inside. And she actually goes up and she gets really happy. But then she thinks about it and she deflates. And you can see even the flower deflates. But they also tear you apart and she gets sad by the end. So I wanted this change of emotion through the shot as well. I wanted it to be happy, then I wanted it to be sad. And so what I did was, once I got these poses that I liked, I then brought them into my timeline, like this. I brought them onto my timeline, just 4 drawings, and I spaced them out on my dialogue line to see if it was going to flow right. And this is what it looks like.
Memories. They warm you up from the inside, but they also tear you apart.
So you can get...
Memories. They warm you up from the inside, but they also tear you apart.
So you can see, just by using those 4 drawings in the right placement, you can already get a sense of what that animation is going to feel like. I feel like it was feeling pretty good. So then what I did was I went in and I started very rough just to throw in some filler drawings just to connect some of these poses and let the animation be just slightly, and I mean ever so slightly, more fluid. And so this is what I've done here. And so here's another pass with just a few scribbled drawings thrown in between just to get a sense of what the animation might be.
Memories. They warm you up from the inside, but they also tear you apart. Memories. They warm you up from the inside, but they also tear you apart.
So you can see those drawings, these breakdowns as they're called, help connect these poses and get the animation to feel a little bit more fluid. You'll also notice that I wasn't concerned with mouth movement yet. I'm not concerned with dialogue. I just want to make sure that my posing is working with the dialogue. So now the point that I'm up to now is I've gone through and I've redrawn all of those scribbled drawings, and I've been adding mouth shapes throughout. And now there's a section in the middle that I haven't done yet, and that's what we're going to do today. But you'll see what I've done so far. Here it is. And then what I'll be doing is going through and adding all the in-betweens to smooth out the action.
Memories. They warm you up from the inside, but they also tear you apart. Memories. They warm you up from the inside, but they also tear you apart.
So as you can see, it's all starting to come together now, and all I need to do is get some more mouth shapes done in that middle section, and then I'll basically have all my key drawings done, and then it's just a matter of smoothing it all out. Now what I want you guys to understand about all of this is this process. This is the same process I use every time I animate a shot, because it works. I start with the thumbnails. I start with the broad. What is this? What am I going to animate? What are the poses I'm going to hit? Then I lay them out on my timeline and I let those poses fall where they should. Once I find where they should be, then I start filling in the animation around it until finally I start to redraw and fill in the gaps, and I have a finished shot. This is the process that I've come to do over the last 30 years. And one of the great things about it is that it enables me to be fast. I can get my shots done quickly, get them out, and get on to the next shot so that I can have a bigger influence on an animated film. Let's say like on Mulan. On Mulan, I was able to crank out a lot of work because this is the way I was doing it. I had all the ghosts to animate, I had Yao to animate, and so there was a lot of work that needed to be done. On The Lion King, Nala was the same way, and I was able to, through this process, get all of Nala's animation done, and then also jump on to Simba and help out with Simba. So this process enables you to really crank through your work rather quickly. So I'm just going to go ahead now, and I'm going to jump in and start adding in my dialogue through here. Whoops.
I actually got a really quick question about that.
And now we're going to start to doing questions. Yes.
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
How do you decide what base mouth shapes to start with?
I don't worry about I don't start with any mouth shapes. I just let I let the poses hit where they need to hit, and then as I fill in the gaps, my timing is going. I'm more concerned about how my poses move from one pose to the next, and then wherever those drawings fall, I look on my sheet right here. You can see right along my timeline is where my dialogue is. So wherever that drawing hits, that's going to be the mouth shape for whatever sound is being said. So let's say in this instance, on drawing 11,
They warm you up.
they warm you up from the inside. So it's woo. So you can see I've got an ooh shape on her mouth. So here I need an M. Warm. Right there. I need an M. So we're going to go ahead and put an M in there. And then you're going to see the drawings are going to get very, very close together. And we're really just going to be doing animation in the face because I want to hold that pose for quite a bit. Almost, it's almost 2 seconds that I'm holding that pose. And she's talking as she's holding the pose. Let's go ahead and start doing questions. Go ahead, Dustin.
So this is currently a pose-to-pose method?
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up. Whoever's asked that question, that's a great question. Yes, this is a perfect example of animating pose to pose. And this was another example of that I'm going to be using for the animated course that I'm doing. This is pure 100% pose to pose animation. What I've done is I've gone in to find those 4 poses that I'm going to hit throughout the animation, and then I connect them with animation. The alternate, for those of you that don't know, is called straight ahead animation. is that's usually much faster paced animation that's really kind of frenetic, and I just have to animate it straight ahead. I start with drawing one and just start moving forward because there's so much action, and I just use my brain to kind of time it out as I go. But with subtle, simple animation like this, simple acting, that tends to be pose to pose. And so I do these 4 poses and then find the animation to connect them together.
Which software do you prefer for 2D animation? TV Paint better or Adobe After Effects?
Oh, TV Paint by far. Adobe After Effects is not made for 2D hand-drawn animation like this. TV Paint is purely made for this.
Well, there's also Adobe Animation, isn't it?
Adobe Animate, but that's not made for hand-drawn animation either.
Oh, is that one used more for?
It's as far as I know, it's more like
Like Flash?
like motion design. It's not really character-based stuff. It's more like moving logos and things like that. As far as I know, it's definitely not made for this.
Gotcha. What about Toon Boom?
You know what? Toon Boom's definitely great, but for hand-drawn traditional 2D animation, TV Paint tends to be a stronger bet. I've never used Toon Boom, and I'm just going off of what other people have said, so you don't have to take my word for it. But everyone that I've talked to that's used both has always told me, because for what I do, traditional two-dimensional 2D animation, that TV Paint is the better bet. And this is all I've ever used, and I've never looked back. I love TV Paint.
Can this acting here be done in straight ahead?
It can, but it's extremely difficult because you have so many subtle movements to get into. It really requires hitting poses and then filling in the gaps. It's almost impossible to do it straight ahead like this.
And Nick relayed a question over from Twitch.
Okay.
What is the most valuable lesson that you learned from Glenn Keane? Being it animation or drawing or whatever. Also, do you feel like you've surpassed Glenn, or do you think he still has more to teach you and other animators?
Oh, yeah. I am way better than Glenn Keane. I'm so much better. No, I'm kidding.
You're kind of a big dude.
No, Glenn. No, I'm not. I have not surpassed Glenn. Glenn is the master. And I could always learn from Glenn. Glenn is an amazing. I think some of the best stuff I learned from Glenn is not even animation. It's just how to be a good human being. And one of the great things he did that really helped me in my career is the way he trusted me. When I was a young animator, he really entrusted me with some really difficult animation. And it was above my ability, but he entrusted me with it. He knew I could figure it out eventually, and he had faith in me. And it really, because of that generosity of him giving me these really kind of difficult shots, it bolstered my reel to the point where by the next film, I was a supervisor because he gave me such meaty work. It showed off what I could do, and so they gave me bigger roles in the next films. And so I really took a lesson from that, and I really wanted to kind of pay that forward. And so that's what I've always tried to do as a director, and then even now what we're doing is, give people their chance and let them shine. And that's what he always did. And so many of the people that worked for Glenn ended up as supervisors, ended up as directors, and they all have Glenn to thank for that because of his generosity and his patience and his ability to teach. And so that I took away. That was probably my greatest lesson from Glenn, and I really took that away and wanted to pass it on. And it literally is one of the inspirations behind what we do now. When I left Digital Domain and was trying to decide what my next step was be, and I knew it was going to be, and I knew I didn't want to go to another studio, the idea of coming up with this website and sharing our knowledge came up because I was thinking about Glenn and everything he had done for me. And I was thinking, holy cow, we live in this age of the internet where we can share all over the world, all over the planet. And so that was the inspiration. And then 5 years later, here we are.
Here we are. Can you please explain timings? I find it confusing and can never get the hang of it, no matter how much I was taught at the university.
Yeah, timing is a funny thing. Timing is subjective. Timing, it's subjective. It's one of those things where anybody, 2 different people, 3 different people, 5 different people can time out a scene and they'll all time it differently. It's really what you feel is right. And so, when I'm timing, I tend to have my timing a little bit, just a tiny bit soft. Especially with a character like this, I like it to be a little bit soft. I want fluidity in my animation. And so you'll see that when it moves,
Memories. They warm you up from the inside.
there's a little bit of a softness to the way everything kind of slows out and slows in to different poses.
They warm you up from the inside, but they also tear you.
You'll also notice that from a timing standpoint on the dialogue, I'll lead a lot of the what's being said. I'll start to hit the pose before she's saying it because we tend to do that. We tend to anticipate our posing before we vocalize whatever it is that we're vocalizing.
If you want to show them a complete version, you can show them the cat one you recently did.
Oh yeah. So let me pull up the cat version.
Because that shows like the complete fluidity of the animation.
So here's what I'm talking about with the fluidity. I try to get it nice and fluid, and you'll notice that he'll hit poses. Well, it'll feel like he's hitting them right on the money, but he's actually hitting these poses before he's talking.
Well, it does sound plausible enough tonight, but why don't we wait till tomorrow? Let's wait for the common sense of the morning. Well, it does sound plausible enough tonight, but why don't we wait till tomorrow? Let's wait for the common sense of the morning.
You'll also notice my personal style, I'm always trying to find arcs and fluidity. I'm thinking about 3-dimensional space when I animate, but I'm also thinking about the 2-dimensional space of the screen. And I like things to move in fluid motion. I don't like any hard angle changes because it can be jarring, especially in a very calm scene like this. So I try to find pleasing, fluid action from a 2-dimensional standpoint. And then I also add in the 3-dimensional element of them moving in and out and that sort of thing. So what you'll notice is a lot of arcing in my work, and opposing arcs. Sometimes they'll arc this way and then back the other way. Sometimes they'll arc this way and then continue through the arc. And you'll see that in this animation.
Well, it does sound plausible enough tonight, but why don't we wait till tomorrow? Let's wait for the common sense of the morning.
So I'm always trying to find that fluidity within my timing. And so the best thing I can tell you on timing is that it is very subjective, and one thing to avoid is evenness in timing. And let me jump back to my other dialogue. And this is very close to being even, but I found places to break it up.
Memories. They warm you up from the inside, but they also tear you apart.
So you'll notice that the phrasing is fairly even, but I'm trying to find poses to hold a little bit longer and then get out of them maybe just a little bit late and then get into another one a little sooner. And what that does is it adds a little bit of texture in your timing. Think about music. Music can be really boring if it's really even. Bump, 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 bump. But music like jazz or just any type of good music that catches your ear is going to have a lot of texture in its timing. It's it changes all over the place. And that's what we want to see in our animation, when you can have that texture and your timing and avoid evenness. And that also applies to lots of movement as opposed to no movement. you'll notice that I'm animating into a pose, and then I'll hold a pose for a little bit, and then I'll get out of it. I want to find that texture and the timing to keep the interest of the viewer peaked and watch it all the way through the shot. You. I gotta get you. You. So look, now we're gonna go into the you. There's that you.
Ready for a new question?
Yeah.
Okay. How did you learn acting for animation, especially in animating a human? I find it very difficult to do it right.
Well, acting. I took acting classes. I did. Yeah, at Disney, I took acting classes, improv classes, but I also I studied a lot of great animation. I studied film. You know, I have my favorite actors that I watch just specifically for acting choices. And I'm always watching different actors and how they make their choices, and I apply that to my animation. And so even in live action, you'll notice that really good actors in live action will do the same thing that I'm talking about here in animation. They'll do pose to pose acting. They'll do, this shit because, it's life. It's real life. I'm not making something up just for animation. I'm actually, animation, what I'm doing here is a reflection of what I've observed in real life. And so, in order to learn this stuff, I've observed that, learned from other animators that I've admired, and just kind of, over time, had trial and error as well. I find things that work and other things that don't work. And after a while, it just becomes second nature. Now, one of the most important things you can do is make sure that whatever it is that you're animating, you're making it real for yourself, making it real to yourself. You have to get in there. You've got to feel that acting. You've got to feel that emotion. Now, what I'm doing here tends to be, it's probably a little broader, more Broadway stage, old-fashioned acting, the big push poses. But I still want her to have a sense of reality to it. I want you to believe that she's feeling what she's feeling. Whoops. Where are we? There we go. You.
Actually, was it required for you to do the acting classes and lessons at the animation studio?
No, it wasn't required, but I wanted to be the best I could be. So I took it. And it's difficult, especially improv. Improv classes are not easy. You got to get in there. You got to make a fool of yourself. But once you get in there and you kind of let your inhibitions go, you start learning. And that's what I've always been a student. I've always wanted to learn more. And it really did help me with my animation.
When you were at Disney, did you work with Steve Houston or Huston?
No, Steve Houston. No, Steve Houston was in California, but I don't know that I've ever met Steve Houston. I may have over the years, I can't remember, but I've always been a fan of his work. I mean, a huge fan. He's just incredible.
Do you ever use Photoshop, and if so, what kind?
I use Photoshop. This is all Photoshop right here. Boom, boom, boom. This is I think 2 versions back or 1 version back. I haven't updated it yet lately. But here is, I do most of my paintings. Here's my World Lion Day painting. Where am I? Oh, there we go. My World Lion Day painting, this is done in Photoshop. I make my own custom brushes, and there's the painting. So, if you didn't catch it before, I'll say it again. This is, World Lion Day is tomorrow, and this is going to be available on my website, creatureartteacher.com. For sale, and the proceeds that we make from this, from World Lion Day, from the sale of this poster, will go towards lion conservation. So if you love lions, buy a poster.
I know what movie I'll be watching tomorrow.
Which one? Lion King?
Duh.
All right, where am I? Oh, I got to go back to TV Paint. Getting lost in my softwares here. All my softwares.
Is it possible to use both pose to pose and straight ahead methods at the same time? And if so, how so?
No, not. It's one or the other. Now you could use them for the same shot because there might be a shot where the character's acting really frenetic and all over the place, and then they settle down. So you might have a situation where you're using both there, but you don't use both at the same time. It doesn't work that way.
In your early days at Disney, how did you figure the lip sync out without the digital timeline? It was only by the X sheets and metronome, or did you have another kind of system before computers?
No, we had the way it was done was the we had the X sheet, and the editors would lay in the dialogue on the X sheet before we would get the X sheet. So we'd have all our frames. On the exposure sheet, you could see all your frames where you're supposed to number everything, and then right alongside the dialogue is written out, just like a waveform is now, but it was written in letters. The dialogue. So I knew on frame 35 if there was an ooh sound to make an ooh shape to the mouth, and that's how we got our lip sync. So it was all thanks to the editors.
And this stream is currently being it's going to be saved on here on Facebook and on YouTube, right?
Correct.
And I believe it's also going to be saved on Twitch as well, if I remember correctly.
Yes, on Twitch, across all the platforms.
Except Instagram, because we're still trying to figure that out.
Yeah, Instagram, no Instagram. If someone knows how to do Instagram, please let us know. Maybe Nick already knows. Nick.
Having worked as a director and thinking back to your first directing gig, are there any lessons you've learned, or is there any advice you could give to a fellow director who is still pretty new to the job?
Yes, trust your crew. You don't need to know all the answers as a director. That's not what being a director is. Being a director is not telling people what to do. Being a director is just guiding the ship. You know what the end product is, but let your crew do what they've been hired to do. And if you do that, then they're going to take ownership more. They're going to contribute more, and it's going to be a better film. And another thing, because this really drives me nuts for directors that do this, there's so many directors that I think tend to have a little bit of an ego. Don't call it my film. Don't ever say, hey, I want you guys to see my film. It's not your film. 400 other people worked on that film. It's our film. Always say that. And if you can get and the reason I say that, and I know it's such a little thing, but the more you can get your brain into that mindset, the better off you're going to be down the road, and you will see it as our film. And you will see it as we are doing this together. You're leading the way, but we're all in this together. And too many directors get lost in the whatever. They just get lost in it and forget that this is a multi-person effort.
It warm you up. It warm you up. You warm you.
I might have to hit that a little early.
It warm you up.
Maybe I'll hit freeze.
Warm you up.
There we go.
Is this similar to Don Bluth timing? You seem to have that beautiful timing feel.
I don't know if there's a specific I've never heard of Don Bluth timing. We all have our own tastes in timing. My taste in timing has just evolved over the years. Different guys have a sense of different timing. But we all, I think, basically are students of life. And so I think there's a fair amount of similarity among a lot of animators out there. But yeah, if this is Don Bluth timing, then maybe I got influenced by him, I guess. I'm going to let this play real quick just to see how the dialogue's looking.
Memories. They warm you up from the inside.
Yeah, so you can see we're starting to get a little bit more dialogue in there.
They warm you up.
Warm you up. Warm you up. So we're going to go from the ooh to up.
Warm you up.
And I'm going to hit it ahead. So I'm going to hit it right there. Boy, I got a series of 3s in there. I hate 3s. I don't like odd numbers, but we'll figure it out later on down the road.
And Nick confirms that you cannot do Instagram at the same time. They don't support it. Only option is to use a phone.
Gotcha. Well, there you go. So we won't be doing Instagram.
And also from YouTube, another question: what does it take to be a great storyboard artist?
I think great storyboard artists to me are students of film and are great. To me, they have to be some of the best artists on the project. And think about it this way: I look at, in my opinion, and some guys will disagree with me, which is fine. But think of it this way: storyboarding is the first time. Storyboards. It's the first time that you've gone from written word script to the screen. So that image that you're creating is now becoming the definitive image that's going to carry that story. If you think about it this way, when people are reading the script, if there's 30 people in the room, there's 30 different pictures going in their heads, even though they're reading the same words. But once you put that image up on the screen, now it's definitive. And so as a storyboard artist, you're the first one taking those words and putting them up on the screen as pictures. And so I think it's, the better off you are at cinematography, understanding cutting, understanding acting, understanding expression, drawing, character design, all of that stuff, the better story artist you're going to be, and the more you're going to be able to tell that story down the road and more clearly. Now, obviously, there's guys out there that don't do all of that. Some guys are, really good gag guys, and that's great. But I really feel like some of the strongest guys that can do all of that, their storyboards get carried all the way through the picture and get changed the least. And so, think about it that way.
Is it better to use Mac or can I draw in Windows?
I think you can draw in Windows on this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think TV Paint is support, or Windows supports it.
Yes, it does. And at that point, it's pretty much all the person's preference if they like Mac or Windows.
Yes, Dustin. Yes, because Dustin loves Windows, and he's always trying to talk me into Windows, and I am a Mac guy. It's the eternal struggle.
Yeah, I like being able to build my own rigs for much cheaper.
See, I'm talking so much I keep forgetting what mouse shape I'm going for.
Understand what happens?
Oh, that's right, up. Whoops.
How crucial do you think learning 2D animation is for a future 3D animator?
I don't think it's crucial. I mean, to me, it's not learning 2D animation, it's just learning animation. One of the things I love about 2D animation is that it's tactile. You have to draw it. But the principles of 2D animation are no different in 3D. It's the principles of animation. It's not 2D animation or 3D animation. So I don't think it's imperative that you need to understand to draw 2D animation. Maybe does it help you? I don't know. I mean, I only have the experience of being a 2D animator that's learned 3D down the road. I don't technically do 3D animation, but I understand it. So I don't really know any other way. But I don't believe in my heart that you need to know 2D animation. You just need to know animation. You need to know those principles.
Can you explain why you avoid animating on 3s?
Oh, because 3s, when it gets done, because I'm trying to keep everything on 2s on this, just because I'm trying to conserve drawings. And so if I'm trying to draw on 2s, then I want an even number of frames per drawing if it's being held while in order to fill the gaps. And so if you have 3s and you need to fill the gaps with in-betweens, you're going to end up with 1s. And it's just a lot of extra drawing. And so I'm always trying to avoid 3s because of that. Now, if this is much faster action, doesn't matter. I would fill in all the gaps anyway because I would be doing all my animation on 1s. But because I'm trying to do it on 2s, I'm trying to make sure that each drawing, when it's in the pose test form, is held on 4s, 6s, 8s, 12s, 16s, 24s, that sort of thing. That's usually how I break it down.
Did you ever meet Dumbledore?
No, I've never met him. I've just missed meeting him a few times, but no, I've never met him.
As an animator, how important do you think it is to create short, personal films?
I think it's pretty important. That's why I'm trying to do it now. To me, it's pretty important because I think it helps stretch you a bit. And where's my... losing my line here. I want to put this here. There we go. There. I just think it's a good practice.
YouTube question.
Sure.
If you became a president at Disney Animation Studios, what would be the first thing you do?
President at Walt Disney Studios? I have no idea. That's above my pay grade.
But what if?
What if? I'd bring 2D back. I'd instantly start developing a 2D film. But I would do it in a way that is more cost effective, artistically different. I want to break the mold of what's been done in the past. Probably wouldn't be doing a Broadway type musical. Probably do something a little different.
Can you explain the multiply blending mode in Photoshop?
Yeah, multiply. It's a little off subject here, but I'll jump over real quick. Multiply does exactly that. Multiply multiplies whatever pigment you're painting with the layers underneath. So, let's say I'm going to put a layer right here on top. I'm going to set it to multiply, and now I'm going to grab this tone right here, and I'm going to grab this brush. Now you'll notice I've got this light color, this light kind of ochre color, but it's going to multiply with everything on here. So you're going to see it's going to darken, and it's going to vary depending on the color that it goes over. You see that? It's like I'm adding a film. It's multiplying with everything that's underneath it. So it's like you're creating like a film over the top of it. So that's the multiply mode. It multiplies with what's underneath. Now if I did this as an overlay, blend mode, we do another layer, do this as overlay, then it's going to take and it's going to brighten everything underneath. Watch this. See that? And that's what that does. And so I'll use multiply and I'll use overlay as my shadow areas and my light areas. I'll use overlay to paint in my light areas and multiply to lay in my shadow areas, and I'll get the two balanced together so that ultimately this is what I end up with. I've started out with using multiply and overlay, and then I paint just right on top opaque image colors to finish off the painting, and that's what this is. Back to animation.
Actually, a quick YouTube question.
They warm you up from up you up.
Yes.
For a newcomer in here, did you thumbnail this scene? If so, can we see it?
Yes, I showed the thumbnails right at the beginning. And here they are. So let me play it for you first.
Memories. They warm you up from the inside, but they also tear you apart.
So the person that asked that question, here, that's the animation, but it started with these thumbnails. And you'll see, when you look at the thumbnails, you'll see the poses that I used within that animation. These are the thumbnails. I went through and figured out where I wanted to, memories. She's looking at the flower and thinking. Then she's talking about they warm you up from the inside. And then she starts thinking about it, and then she's Debbie Downer. They also tear you apart. She becomes Debbie Downer. And so that's what this is. So now
Up. Up.
there's the P for up.
Up.
See if I can do this without threes.
Warm you up.
See, I may have gotten it. I may have done it right there. So now I'm going to do the P shape. The P shape.
The P shape.
The P shape. Up.
Ready for a question?
Yeah, man. Bring it on.
From Twitch.
That's why we're here.
Over from Twitch. Have you ever studied figure drawing books? And also, does every animator have to study life drawings?
Yes. Every 2D animator does study life drawings. Just real quick, before I answer that question, I want to show you. Notice how I'm changing the animation of the nose. I'm going out of the in-between. If you notice...
Warm you up from the inside.
You know, see how it's going? The nose is getting pushed up because I want it to hit this P. So when it hits the P, everything's going to squash up. And so when I did figure drawing as an animator, yeah, I looked at books, but mainly I did figure drawing classes. So we use live models. We had figure drawing all the time at Disney. Sometimes we'd have costume models. Sometimes we'd have nude models. And it was always all about trying to get, a better handle on your figure drawing, your anatomy. I'm going to push those eyes up a little bit. Just a little bit.
What animation exercises do you recommend other than bouncing ball and flour sack?
Walk cycles. Figure out your walk cycles. That'll really help you with mechanics. And then also try to animate a shot. Like this is very simple. This is a very simple shot that I'm doing right here. Find something with a change of emotion. This is one with a change of emotion. This is a basic exercise that is really imperative that you learn how to do. And it doesn't have to be happy to sad. It can be, confident to fearful. It can be whatever. And try to find something that where you're animating a change of emotion, because then you have to really get into the shoes of that character and feel what it is that they're feeling. And it's a good exercise to get into.
Have you ever done anything in the UPA flat graphic style, like animation or character design?
I haven't. I really love that style, but I've never really done anything in that realm. Everything I've done is always kind of Disney style, and that's my natural style, is Disney type style.
Would you ever want to try that?
Oh yeah, I love it. I'm a big fan of it. I just really never had the opportunity for it. And it's not my preferred style, even though, like I said, I like it. It's just not something I prefer to go a bit more complex.
How do you make your audio so clear? Mine tends to stutter and jump and lose sync when I play in TV Paint.
I'm not sure what you're doing in TV Paint, but my recording, the way I recorded it was I used my phone, and most phones have this now. My phone has a digital recorder, so I just make sure that everything's really quiet, and I just recorded it right into my phone.
And what's your approach to timing?
We had this question earlier. My approach to timing is just making sure that it's not even.
Oh, scratch that. What's your approach to spacing?
Spacing?
Spacing.
Well, spacing and timing actually really go hand in hand. And I space everything the way that feels right, and over time you'll understand you'll get to know. I've been working for 30 years at 24 frames per second. I've never really worked at any other frame rate than that, and so I know how fast something's going to move across the screen at 24 frames a second, and so I space everything accordingly.
Warm you up from the.
So I'm going to say warm you up.
It warm you up. It warm you up. It warm you up. It warm you up.
Yeah, we
It
go.
warm you up. It warm you up.
So you can see I got rid of those 3s. I pushed a couple of 2s, got a couple of 4s, and it still works.
Warm you up from.
So now I got to get the warm you up.
It warm you up. Warm you up. Warm you up.
Got to get her into an F shape.
Again, the F dash dash dash.
All right, let's get that F shape. What?
For F's sake. I got another Twitch question here.
Yes.
For the acting for animation course, are you going to include a lesson to where more than one character acts and reacts to each other in one scene?
Yes, and that'll be a big complex one. But yes, I am going to include that. What to do, how to do it, all that kind of stuff. I may refer to some stuff that I did at Disney. You know, one of the main ones I'll talk about is there's a shot that you guys will always hear me talking about that I animated in Beauty and the Beast, where I know where Belle where Belle is bandaging Beast in front of the fireplace and they get into a big fight. And hold on, let me just get this. There's a lot of back and forth that we did there in order to get that to work right.
And you had to choreograph that with another animator.
Yes.
And that's usually how interactions between two characters works normally, right?
Yes.
From one animator to another.
Yep. And so that's how that usually works.
Are you going to be bringing another old friend animator for that lesson bit, or
no? I'm just going to do it myself. I'll play the role of both animators.
Gotcha. Are there any 2017 animated movies that you saw?
2017. Oh, Coco. Coco was 2017, or was that 2018?
I think Coco.
Coco was 2018, wasn't it?
What?
Well, whatever came out in
Moana
2007.
Was Moana last year? I think Moana was last year.
I think that was the year before.
60? Really?
Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. It all runs together. Now that I work on my own out of my house, I blink and a week goes by.
Right.
It's true.
Coco was in 2017.
Okay, so I saw Coco. Coco is my favorite film of 2017.
I like the music in it.
Oh, I love it. And I think we were in Mexico. I think I was in Mexico when Coco was released in Mexico. I think Nick and I were there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We were in Mexico City. Or it had just been released or something like that.
How was the contrast in planning out two characters you handled in the same scene?
Well, you approach it like you do anything else, and so you just got to kind of take it very level-headed. And when you're animating two characters in a shot, the first thing you do is start looking at the dominant character, and what's the dominant character doing, and then because the dominant character is dictating the action in the shot. So once you get the dominant character going, then when you start to animate the other character, or if you're handing it off to another animator, they're going to be making their animation choices based on what the first character is doing, the dominant character. So it's really not that hard to do, because the hardest thing is just to figure out that dominant character and then let them do their thing, and then the secondary character is just going to follow suit.
And somebody confirmed that Coco was released in November in Mexico and December worldwide.
Oh, gotcha. From... Okay, now see, this is interesting. Warm you up from the inside. So this is where dialogue gets interesting. Notice when I say warm you up from the inside, warm you up from the inside. When I say the word from, I don't go, when I say from, I open my mouth. But when I say warm you up from the inside, I don't open my mouth. You notice that? Warm you up from, see that? Warm you up from the inside, from. You don't open your mouth. That's one of the things you need to, young animators will do, is over animate that dialogue. They think because they're not listening to what's being said and they're seeing it written out, or they're thinking about the logic of the word that's coming up, they feel like they have to hit every single syllable that's being said. And we don't talk that way. So warm you up from, so I have to go basically from the F, So that's really all I have to do. I don't have to open the mouth. I just need to go. I'm going to hit an shape.
Will your animation acting course be useful for character designers?
Maybe. I think it would be from the sense of just the way that I move characters around, and you might get something out of that. My character design course, which is out, would help you as a character designer. So if you're not aware that I have a character design course, I've got a very large character design course that goes hand in hand with my animation course. So if you want to check it out, it's creatureartteacher.com. Sorry, I'm gonna. So I think, yeah, so I'm trying to kind of do a little in between and it's going to go right into the M.
So Nick found two related YouTube questions together. How do you stay on model, and how do you keep the proportions the same?
That's a good question, and it comes from when you're working pose to pose. It's not that hard because your poses are spread out all over the entire shot. So your animation that you're doing to connect everything is already being dictated by two poses that are already the right size. So that's not so bad. When you're animating straight ahead, that's when you get into problems about, shapes changing, proportions changing. And all you really can do there is just continually recheck. Check your first drawing, check your last drawing. How do they look compared to each other? Do you need to blow a section up? Do you need to shrink it down? It just really requires discipline and really checking all the time to make sure that you're not morphing your character into different shapes or different sizes. And it really just comes from experience. The more you do it, the better you get at it. And it also, the way you construct your character, that's another thing. When I construct this character, even though there's complexity in this character really is just a ball like this and cheeks. Once I get this, and there's the hair on top. Once I get the ball and cheeks, once I get that shape down, then, drawing the face, which is just this little circle with the nose on it and a little muzzle and the eyes, that just goes right, that part is easy. It's getting this shape right here first and making sure that that's consistent. So I make sure that I can construct my characters easily. There we go. There we go. And you notice too that I tend to animate rather clean. That's just my personal style. And I work towards the clean animation. I was a cleanup artist. I started out as a cleanup artist before I was an animator, and I couldn't stand it when animators were just lazy and would just give me really sloppy drawings. So I made it a point when I became an animator that I would give the cleanup artists better drawings to go off of. And so it's just my personal style. I try to stay clean. Um, it's, for me, it's actually faster because I'm not having to wade through scribbly crap to figure out where my line is supposed to go.
It warm you up from the warm you up from the it warm you up from the warm you up from.
Alright, can you show the settings of the brush that you're using on TV Paint?
The settings are right over on the left, right over here. These are the settings. So what I'm using is this brush right there. That's the 2B pencil brush. Okay? And all the settings are right here, over on the left. Whoops. Where am I at? I'm over here. There we go. So you'll notice I'm basically doing line over line on the body because I want her to hold this pose. She's holding this pose for almost 2 seconds.
I got a Twitch question here.
Hey Twitch.
Hey Twitch, how's it going? Is live footage of acting out certain movements going to be demonstrated and used as reference in your new course?
Absolutely. Yes, I'm going to be doing that. I'm going to be talking about using reference. Here's a shot I did. Let's see.
And also Nick wrote, can you mention that as we have a more international audience, we are working hard to get all of our courses subtitled in as many languages as possible.
Yes, we are currently working, for those of you that are out there internationally, we're currently working to try to get as many of our courses subtitled into as many languages as possible. So far, we've got Mandarin, we've got Spanish, we've got Portuguese, and yes, we'll try to get some French and other languages in there. But real quick, back to the person that asked me about live action. This is a quick, very rough, very posed out shot that I animated about a character that's trying to withhold anger. I was trying to show how you can animate anger without going ah and going crazy. He's just trying to hold it back, and then at the end he loses it. But what I did was I acted it out first and had Dustin film me, and then I put that the film up on my screen, and I would use certain poses that I liked, and I would redraw them. I didn't draw over the live action. I just looked at it and used it as reference, and then I connected those poses together with my own animation, and this is how it looks. So it's very rough, but he's just gotten bad news. He's trying to hold it together. Pushes the chair away. He's pumping his fists. He's like, okay, all right, I'm not going to lose it. Takes a breath, but then he's like, screw it, and he loses it.
Oop.
Oop. And then the chair took out his grandma.
Or hit his boss.
Yeah.
Because he looks like a giant, mob henchman.
Yeah. But I wanted him to be a guy that, might be a big dude that, has a hard time holding his temper in. And so I just let it be there, and then he loses it. And what's nice about something like this is that you get contrast. You can have a character that's trying to hold it together, and then he loses it. So that just adds some entertainment. So that's another way to approach anger. But I used live action reference. I sat down and I filmed myself in my backyard doing that. I actually broke the chair when I threw it. I didn't break it, but I bent it. Yeah. So.
And that's why in the animation he's like, oh.
Yeah.
And Nick says that our animation course now has English, Spanish, Mandarin, and now Portuguese.
Oh, right on. So say that again, Dustin.
English, Spanish, Mandarin, and now Portuguese are the languages that
Our animation course is subtitled in.
There you go.
So there you go.
Sorry, my brain kind of hit pause there for a second. Who am I? What year is it?
So what I'm trying to do is, like I said, get this little section of dialogue animated. So I'm hitting all the hard sounds, all the different mouth shapes, and you'll notice that some of the mouth shapes happen 2 frames apart. That's where we're hitting right now. So I want to hit, squash her mouth up a little bit, just a touch. Well, actually, that's.
Do you have any trick to keep track of the volumes while animating? It's easy to get lost on them.
No. You just have to constantly check. You just have to constantly check to make sure that your volumes are staying consistent. There's no real trick. One of the other things I was just mentioning is making sure that you can construct your character simply.
Can you show us the live action footage they used for that anchor scene?
I don't know where it is right now.
It's lost in the black hole.
Yeah, I don't have it up. I've got it in. It's in my acting for animation folder, but it's a little deep. I'm gonna. Let me see if I can find that real quick.
For a beginner, is it better to use drawing tablet with or without screen?
With or without screen?
I think meaning like on a Cintiq or on a standard tablet.
With.
With?
Yeah.
With screen?
Yeah, I think so. Real quick, I want to show you. Here's an example of some animation that I did that is straight ahead. I'm completely changing subject, but this is a shot from Snow Bear, a development shot that I did for Snow Bear, the little animated short that we're working on. And I want to show you real quick. You know, if you notice, it's all very fast action. And I animated all of this just straight ahead. Just him running in, one drawing after the next. No posing out, just going straight ahead. Let it play one more time. So that's the difference. If you know, you can see there's a big difference in this type of animation as opposed to the animation I'm doing now. It's much faster action. There's a lot more going on, and it tends to be. They tend to be like very simple emotions. Like this is joy. I wanted him to be really joyful. Other ones, like if you watch Peter Pan, where the father with Wendy is getting upset and he's stammering and walking around. There's, you know, I just saw some of that animation recently. That's a lot of just straightforward him just going nuts. So, so there's the difference right there. And I can't remember where I put that live action. I'll have to pull it up another time. Sorry about that. The heck? Where did my animation go?
Uh-oh.
Why is it over there?
Huh?
It's all over there. What happened?
Are you able to pan it over?
I don't know. I don't know what I did.
What'd you do?
Oh, there it is. Hey, I'm a TV paint expert.
I'm an expert. Don't try this at home, kids. Oh, there's just love when those kinds of moments happen.
Oh yeah.
Like,
I've got an audience of 700 people watching, and I don't know what I'm doing.
So we wrote Mac. What did you focus when you started to learn about animals, anatomy, real life animal drawings?
Uh, Real life animal drawings, and the first thing I ever learned were my ducks. My father was a hunter, is a hunter. Well, was a hunter because he doesn't hunt anymore. He was a duck hunter, and he carved decoys. My father's an artist as well, and so he would sit in the garage. He had all of his carving tools, and he would carve decoys. So when I was a little boy, about 5 years old, I would sit out there, and I would have all of his duck books, and I remember learning every single duck in North America, ducks and swans and geese and all that, and I would draw them. And so that was the first thing I learned. I was fascinated by birds at that point, and that kind of just worked itself into kind of being fascinated by all animals. I lived with my father and my stepmother, and then I ended up moving to Florida to be with my mother and my stepfather, and that love of animals carried over into Florida, where I learned much more about the Florida wildlife, and then it grew into global wildlife.
It warm you up from the inside. Memories. They warm you up from the inside.
See how the mouth shapes are getting
They
faster?
also tear you apart.
We're getting close.
Memories. They warm you up from the inside.
From
Warm you up from
see that? From the E. I gotta repeat that shape. So I'm basically going to repeat that shape that's on the key. From the inside.
So I mentioned
So I've just got a couple more drawings to do, really.
Just a few more?
Yeah.
And so I mentioned when the bunny was off screen, it's like, the bunny ran away.
Where'd the bunny go?
Squirrel. I don't have any new questions at the current moment.
Oh man, we lost them. We lost the audience.
We lost everybody. Oh no, the humanity.
Oh man, that tea is good.
So I mentioned that the animation they did for the guy throwing the chair. That guy looks a bit like Glenn Keane, doesn't he?
Yeah, that's how Glenn Keane always acted, right there.
Messed up on a B shot.
Such a hot head.
Throws chair at you.
From E.
Have you animated dialogue in another language, like Spanish, for example?
I never have.
Never have?
No. And it's really hard to do because you're animating phonetically. You're just animating the sounds that you're hearing, especially if you don't know the language.
And also the way they pronounce the words and phrases in different languages are different from English. Like every language has their own style of communication.
You're right.
So, like, do you think you would need when it comes to trying to animate a different language, do you think you would need to, like, start from scratch when it comes to learning to animating that language?
Well, I mean, I would still hold on to even animating in English. I'm animating phonetically. I'm hitting open shapes and closed shapes on the accents. I'm making sure that the accent, when we talk, we put in a certain emphasis on a certain syllable within a word, and that's the accent. That's where you're hitting the accent. Like in the word accent, the accent is an accent. So I open my mouth on accent. And so that's the biggest thing that I make sure of when I'm animating dialogue, is making sure that I'm hitting those accents throughout. I'm not really worried about the words as much as I am about where the mouth is open and closed. And look at the Muppets. The Muppets, the puppeteers that do the Muppets are masters at hitting the accent, because all they do is open and close those mouths. There's no mouth shapes. It's open and it's closed. But holy cow, they get those Muppets to feel like they're really talking because they're hitting the accents. And if you can do that, then you're 90% of the way there. And then, because we have the luxury of actually creating mouth shapes, drawing them, then you can really get that lip sync to sing by hitting the right mouth shapes in between the accents.
Will you show how to do singing in the course?
Yeah, singing really is just the same. A lot of the times it's just drawn out, but it's just the same as hitting accents. The dialogue doesn't, the theory behind it isn't any different. It's just that, sometimes you have a character that's got a drawn out note or something like that, and you gotta carry that note. But the theory, the approach, is still the same.
Maybe I'll do a sample recording for you to animate over.
I think that'd be cool.
Warm you up for me and up for me.
Maybe sing Alvin and the Chipmunks Lonely.
I'm going to go to an N shape from
What?
the inside.
Oh, sorry.
From the inside. So she has to.
Memories. They warm you up from the inside, but they also tear you apart. Memories. They warm you up from the inside, but they also tear you apart. Memories. They warm you up from the inside.
All right, we're getting close, you guys.
What anatomy books do you strongly recommend for practicing?
Anatomy books.
Yes.
I don't know of any anatomy books. If you're talking about human anatomy, Bridgman. There's a lot of good anatomy books out there for artists, but I don't really use them anymore, and I can't really remember what I had. I really studied from life as much as I could. I took a lot of figure drawing classes whenever I could. Drew from life. A lot of nude models, because that really helps with anatomy.
Nude models.
Yes. Oh yeah. I did a lot of. I drew a ton of nude models, but it really helps understanding anatomy, and they don't always have to be people that are in great shape. I really recommend, if you can, if you're drawing live nudes, get people that aren't always that are in odd shapes. You'll get a good cross section of how the human body is presented, and I think that's a really good practice. It doesn't always have to be the ideal physique, and so I did a lot of that, and then I would draw off of the film, off of screens, off of I would back in the days of VCRs, I would freeze frame and draw characters and costumes. If I was watching a period piece. And inside. I keep talking and forgetting what I'm animating.
If you're doing the same shape of the key drawing you already did, why don't you copy and paste that drawing instead of drawing it all over again?
Because if I copy and paste, the line work will stop. I like to see the line work alive and crawling. It'll actually stand out even more, because the face will be animating and the body will feel like it's frozen. So by drawing it new each time, I'm keeping the drawing alive. I'm keeping the animation alive.
It'll feel less robotic.
Yes. It's what's called a moving hold.
But can I use my bunny as a model when I draw?
Sure. Someone asked that question?
Yes. I mean, I don't have a bunny. What's more important to put on a reel to Disney or Pixar?
What's the most important?
Yes.
Your best work. Don't put cartoons. They're not interested in seeing cartoon characters. Put really great, and also obviously it depends on what you're looking for, what discipline you're going for. If you're looking to be a modeler, you got to put sculptures in there. Model, the stuff you've modeled, and don't put stuff in from your college days that where you're just learning. If you have great stuff from college, then yeah, put it in there. But you don't, as an animator, you don't want to put in your first walk cycles and things like that. That's not what they're interested in seeing. They want to see great animation if you're going in for animation. They want to see great modeling if you're going in for that. If you want to do, prop design, then they want to see great props and different styles too. Because every movie is a different style. So if you can change up your style, do that, show that. But, above all, put your best work forward. And it doesn't have to be a huge amount. It just needs to be a decent amount, and it needs to be really high quality.
Nick, by the way, says FYI, TV Paint website is down.
TV Paint website is down?
Yes.
Well, that's a bummer. Side.
Hey guys, I have a question. Did you jump right into animating characters, or did you do old? Did y'all do bouncing balls and flower sacks for a long time to learn?
I took a course. I had an internship. Glenn Keane was my mentor. I had 6 weeks of animation training. Now I had already been trained as an illustrator. I knew how to draw. I knew how to paint, and so this was an experiment that Disney was doing to see if they could teach people that knew how to draw, that had classic drawing experience or training, to animate. And so within the 6 weeks, I had the bouncing ball. Then I animated a flour sack. Then I created a character and did walk cycles with that character. And at the end of it, they've decided that the program was successful enough. I was hired as an assistant animator when I graduated college, because I had to go back and finish my last year. And so when I finished up my 3rd year of college at Ringling in 1989, that's when I started at the animation studios in Burbank, on MGM in Orlando.
I'm currently attending Animation Mentor. Do you know any animators mentoring over there?
I don't. If you named some animators, I might know them, but I haven't been keeping in touch with everybody. So she's hitting. They warm you up from the inside, and so I'm trying to give it a little bit of emphasis on the word inside. So you'll notice the eyebrows are going up a little bit.
What's a moving hold?
A moving hold is, rather than just holding one drawing, I do several drawings traced over each other, and they'll vibrate. They'll just vibrate a little bit to keep it alive, and that's called a moving hold.
How can you learn to have one or several drawing styles?
Experience. When we make our movies at Disney, every movie was different. If you look at Tarzan was a completely different film than Aladdin, let's say, in its look. But a lot of the same artists worked on each film. So you have to be adaptable.
Do you always plan out exactly what you're going to animate, or sometimes do you just go straight ahead and animate without thinking the whole scene?
No, I always think it out. Always think it out. If I don't, then I just end up with a mess.
Always plan ahead, folks.
I always plan ahead.
So what gave you the idea to animate to use this bunny as a subject for this?
After my girlfriend Vedanta recorded it, and then I pitched it up, and I got the liked. Her daughter, Heather, was in the house, and she was walking by, and I called her over, and I said, Heather, listen to this dialogue. I said, what kind of animal does that sound like? And she listened to it a couple times. She goes, it sounds like a bunny. I said, good, okay, then it's a bunny. So that's how we came up with it.
And if you play it a few times, it sounds an awful lot like the character Judy Hobbs, the bunny from Zootopia. I think that.
Oh, does it?
Got the idea from. Like if you put the two characters side by side, they'll sound a lot alike.
Oh, that's interesting.
Do you know of any artists that inspired the 9 Old Men?
Well, a lot of them were illustrators to begin with. So, a lot of the original illustrators back in the day, Norman Rockwell. I mean, Norman Rockwell was a huge influence on a lot of those guys. You know, Norman Rockwell was almost an animator in the sense, or story artist, in the sense of, you know, each one of his paintings told a story. So he was a huge influence. Any illustrator that was, you know, kind of in that vein, that was telling stories through his work, was an influence.
Warm you up from the inside. It warm you up from the inside. It warm you up from the inside.
I think we pretty much got it.
Memories. They warm you up from the inside, but they also tear you apart.
So you notice.
Memories. They warm you up from the inside, but they also tear you apart.
I've got the dialogue working right. I like that dialogue, but watch when she comes out of that pose and she suddenly drops out of it.
Memories. They warm you up from the inside, but
so she drops out of that pose kind of fast. I want to soften that.
Was it hard to change form style to style while working at Disney?
No, it wasn't. But that just comes with experience. I just followed the style of whatever is being dictated. There it is. There's an 11 right there. I don't want that 11. Why is that 11? There we go.
But
So we still have a 9 right there. I don't want that 9. Let's see. Because I got a 23 at the end, so I'm going to do this. Boop. Just pulled everything back. Then I can go boop, 24. Now I got everything back to evens.
up from the inside.
Did you ever see Treasure Planet?
See it? I almost helped work on it. No, yeah, of course I've seen it.
You did almost work on it?
No, I was working on. What year was Treasure Planet?
Oh.
Let's look it up because I think I was working on Brother Bear. What year was Treasure Planet released? I think I was working on Brother Bear at the time. That's why. Or we may have been
2002.
Yeah, I'm definitely working on Brother Bear.
Yeah, that is such a great underrated movie.
Actually, my Brother Bear was the next movie out.
Oh, was after Treasure Planet?
Yeah, because we were 2003.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely love love that movie. I still watch it every once in a while.
Oh, I know. It's a great film. And Ron and John, the directors, Ron Clements and John Musker, probably the two best directors I've ever worked for, and they're most prolific directors at Disney as well. They've done more films than anybody else. So what I'm doing now is I'm just softening her coming out of that pose a bit.
It's funny, another thing about Treasure Planet is that to this day, no matter how many times I watch it, every time Silver and the kid talk to each other,
Yeah.
and like he gives them those motivational speeches.
You get
like,
teary, don't you?
Yeah, I get so teary. It's like, God, stop it. Like, who cut the onions in here?
That's because you remember your dad giving you the same speech.
But it's just so great. It's a great motivation, you know. It was just written out very well.
Oh yeah.
How much did you have to rely on the person who invented the style for the film? Did you ever have to get specific drawings made by them in order to stay on the style, or did you wing it for the most part?
We winged it for the most part. I mean, what we would get is our lectures. We'd get lectures from the person, whether it's the art director or the production designer. We'd get together and they'd give us talks on what they were thinking for the design of the movie. And we'd keep that to heart. And we would have design packets. I mean, nothing is left to chance. There's a lot of work that goes into what we would do. And so part of that is making sure that people have all the information they need. And so we would create packets. We'd create, as a character designer and animator, I would put together a packet of a certain character. This is how you draw the character. This is how I think of, my approach, whatever. And everybody in a leadership position did the same thing. Art directors did it. They would talk about what they were thinking about for the art direction. Production designers would do it, and layout artists would do it for their crew, and everybody had a role to play. That elbow's dropping too much. Let's bring that elbow back up here a little bit. Not so much. There we go. That's a little better. We don't drop it. We don't want it dropping too fast. Every little detail helps. So how long have we been at it? An hour and a half?
Yeah, apparently 2:35.
How has our bandwidth been?
Bandwidth has been good. There's been a few drop frames here and there, but the bandwidth itself has been stable throughout. I think it's just the CPU load on it.
Okay, gotcha.
And as soon as I mention about the bandwidth, it starts going down.
Oh, it just did it just now?
It just hiccuped just now.
Oh,
it's
nice.
green again, but as soon as I said it's all green, all of a sudden red. It's like, really?
All right, so let's see if that softens it.
Memories. They warm you up from the inside. But
yeah, so you can feel that nice soft transition out of the pose.
Memories. They warm you up from the inside. But they also tear you apart. Memories.
The other thing I want you to look at where she says inside. You remember where I pushed that pose a little bit where she says inside on the accent. And so you can see that when it plays, and it's just a subtle little thing, but these are the things that give the animation life.
Memories.
Watch when she says inside.
They warm you up from the inside. But they also tear you apart.
It's just those little
Memories.
It's those little things that you can add to your animation that will give it life, make it feel just a little bit more dynamic, a little bit more real.
Memories. They warm you up from the inside. But they also tear you apart.
Oh, I got to turn on my layer with the flower. There we go. At the end, the flower
Memories.
settles.
They warm you up from the inside. But they also tear you apart. Memories. They warm you up from...
There we go.
Memories. They warm you up from the inside, but they also tear you apart.
So there we go. So that's, I've got all of the dialogue in there. I'm going to save that. Through 40 drawings. I've got 40 drawings. All of those mouth shapes are in. Now it's just a matter of going through and adding the in-betweens to smooth out the action.
Memories.
And that's the process.
They warm you up from the inside.
Now there's a mouthful in there. They warm you up from the inside. And so I wanted you guys, the reason I picked that phrase to animate for you guys is I want you to see that through the complexity of the dialogue, you find the simplest way to say it, and you move through mouth shapes in order to get that lip sync. And so when you watch this, you can see her mouth gets a little bit complex, but it's simplified, and you still feel like there's lip sync there.
Memories. They warm you up from the inside, but they also tear you apart. Memories. They warm you up from the inside, but they also tear you apart.
So there's that. Do we have any more questions, Dustin?
Have you seen the trailer for Klaus by
Sergio Pablos. Yes, I have.
What do you think of it?
I love it. Sergio is a genius animator. If I could animate half as well as Sergio, I would be a happy man.
And what book is this dialogue from?
What book? Oh, it's shoot. And I turned off that tab. I can't remember the name of the book. It's not a mainstream book. But if I find it, I'll let you guys know next time. I can't remember what it is.
You put in the comment section of the
memories. They warm you up from the inside.
The other thing too I want to talk about just really quickly is, once I was talking about posing and making sure your dialogue is working right. The other way to get fluidity and add interest is overlap, and I use the ears for that. So if you watch the ears are reacting. They're reacting in two ways. One is they're reacting through mood. So when she gets into this pose and gets happy, her ears come up slightly. She's happy, so they're slightly coming up. But then as she drops, they overlap. They're following the action. So it's secondary action or overlapping action. So I want you, that adds a sense of believability and dynamics to your animation as well. So watch the ears specifically through here.
Memories. They warm you up from the inside, but they also tear you apart.
At the end, there wasn't really a need to overlap it as much.
They warm you up from the inside, but they also tear you apart.
It's very much like
memories. They warm you up from the inside.
Yeah.
Because the way that he portrays his characters is through the language of the hair.
Yeah.
Because there'll be times where you see the character get angry, you just see the person's hair just flare up
and vibrate,
or they get excited or very shocked. They have that same reaction.
Yeah.
And so and I always thought that was such a unique style of animation for human beings.
It's a great observation. That's really cool, and because it's true, and I love that kind of thing because that's something I never would have thought of. And so that's something that might influence you down the road. We're doing something else, and maybe we kind of steal that idea and we add a little bit of that to our own work, and that's what creates. It's interesting how you can pull from other people's ideas, make it your own, and put your own spin on something, and come up with something completely new and original.
You can also create your own subtle style of showing the emotion.
Yeah.
That no person could think of.
True.
They warm you up from the inside, but they also tear you apart.
So there you go. Just to review, this is pose to pose animation, not straight ahead. Pose to pose. If you remember, if you were here at the beginning, I chose 4 poses. I thumbnailed them out. These are the 4 poses right here. And we turn these off. Boop, boop, boop. Jump down here. These are the 4 poses. I worked those out, put them on the timeline of the dialogue time them out, and once I found the place that I liked them, then it was time to fill in the gaps, do the connective tissue animation to make sure that we flowed from one pose to the next until ultimately, and then adding dialogue, ultimately we ended up here, and this is our animation.
Memories. They warm you up from the inside, but they also tear you apart.
But you can see by keeping your animation simple like this, it lends an air of believability and watchability, because you're not exhausting the viewer by having this character over animate. You don't need, especially for dialogue like this, you don't need a lot of animation. Remember, my other saying that I'm always talking about, animation is the art of bringing something to life. It's not the art of moving something. You know, when you're animating a character, it's not about moving the character, it's about bringing it to life. And what's the best way that you can bring that character to life in whatever situation that you're putting that character in? And in this case, we have some very subtle, easy, posed out dialogue that this character is going to be acting to. And so sometimes the drawings that you don't do, the simplicity that you play instead of the complexity, will give your character more life. And so that's the biggest thing that I want you guys to take away from today. And remember that if you're animating or you're just learning to animate, remember, sometimes it's how much you don't move a character as opposed to how much you move a character that will give it more life or less life. Okay? So with that being said, I think we're going to call it today. Thank you guys so much for coming out and watching. We're going to be back again on Tuesday. Tuesday. And I really enjoyed it. Thanks, you guys, for watching. Remember, go out and put some beauty back in the world. Be nice to somebody. Put your grocery cart away.
Put your grocery cart away.
After you're done putting your groceries back in your car. Don't leave your grocery cart in the parking lot. We all hate that.
Don't leave it in a car space. That is the worst.
But yeah, but just go out and be nice to somebody, because if we all do that, then I think the world will turn around. We'll be in a good place. But I hope you guys enjoyed the animation. And next week, I don't know what we're gonna do. We might do some painting. Maybe we'll do some juggling. I don't know.
Maybe try hiking up Everest.
A little guitar.
Yeah, a little guitar.
Yeah, maybe let's play some guitar.
Do some singing.
Whatever. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. Check out my website, creatureartteacher.com. And remember, tomorrow, let me jump back over to here.
Watercolor.
World Lion Day. Tomorrow is World Lion Day, and this poster will be available on my website, and proceeds from the poster will go towards lion conservation. So please help us support lion conservation. It's something that I feel strongly about. I'm a big advocate for big cats. To see them, I've been to Africa twice, and to see lions and cheetahs and leopards in the wild on their own home turf without cages is just unlike anything else I've ever seen or felt in my life. And I want to make sure that that doesn't go away. So help us help them. So anyway, thank you guys for coming out, and we will talk to you next week on Tuesday.
And Nick said that next week will be watercolor.
Next week will be watercolor. I promise.
And don't forget to watch Lion King tomorrow.
Yeah, watch Lion King. All right, see you guys.
See ya. Bye.